The security chief told Barry White not to go on. "We have confirmed intelligence," he said, "that members of two rival organizations are both in this building tonight, armed. We do not know their intentions. We cannot guarantee your safety or the safety of the audience." Barry White looked at him for a long moment. Then he looked past him through the stage door at the darkness of the wings and the light beyond it where 12,000 people were waiting. "Are they still out there?" Barry White asked. "Yes." "Then I'm going on," he said. September 7th, 1974, the Inglewood Forum, Los Angeles. The neighborhood outside the venue had been tense for 18 months, a territorial conflict between two organizations whose names the newspapers printed carefully and whose activities the police had been unable to meaningfully contain. People had died, not abstractions, specific people with names in specific places on specific nights. The kind of deaths that accumulate into a weight that an entire neighborhood carries without being able to put down. The show had been booked 6 months earlier. The tickets had sold out in 4 days. 12,000 people from Inglewood and Compton and Watts and the surrounding neighborhoods, people who had grown up with Barry White's music, who had danced to it and mourned to it and made decisions to it, and used it as the soundtrack for the parts of their lives that required a soundtrack. The conflict outside had not stopped them from buying tickets. It had not stopped them from coming, which was, in itself, a statement. Barry White's road manager, Calvin, had known about the intelligence since 4 in the afternoon. He had spent 3 hours attempting to determine whether the show should proceed, consulting with venue security, with the promoter, with 2 members of LAPD who had been assigned to the event, and who expressed their opinion with the particular caution of people who understood that whatever they recommended would be wrong in at least one direction. At 7:15, Calvin had gone to Barry White's dressing room and laid out the situation with the direct economy of someone who knows that the person he is speaking to will want the information unmediated. Barry White had listened without interrupting. When Calvin finished, Barry White said, "What are their names?" Calvin blinked. "The organizations. What are their names?" Calvin told him. Barry White nodded slowly. He looked at the set list on the dressing table. He looked at the mirror. He looked at his own hands. "I grew up 6 blocks from here," he said. "I know people in both of those organizations. I know their mothers. I went to school with their brothers." He stood up. "I'm going on." The security chief made his case at 7:45. Barry White heard him out completely. Then he asked the question about whether the 12,000 people were still in the building. They were. "Then I'm going on," Barry White said again. And that was the end of the conversation. What Barry White did not tell the security chief, what he did not tell Calvin or the promoter or the 2 LAPD officers who were now positioned at the stage door with the expressions of men who have decided to let events unfold and document them afterward, was that he had already made a decision that went beyond simply performing the show. He had made a decision about what the show was going to be. Barry White walked onto the stage at 8:03. The roar from 12,000 people was immediate and enormous. Not the roar of a concert audience in the ordinary sense, but something with more relief in it. The sound of 12,000 people who had not been sure entirely that this night was going to happen, and were now being told by his presence that it was. Barry White stood at the microphone and let the sound wash over him for a long moment. He did not perform receiving it. He actually received it. Then he leaned forward and he said, "I need everybody to hear me before we get started tonight. I need 2 minutes of your time before the music begins." The arena quieted. 12,000 people giving him the 2 minutes without knowing why. "I grew up near here," Barry White said. "Most of you know that. Some of you went to school with people I went to school with. Some of you know my family. Some of you," he paused, "some of you are people I have been worried about for the last 18 months. The arena was very quiet now. The particular quiet of 12,000 people who have understood that what is being said directly to them. "I know what's been happening out there," Barry White said. "I know what this neighborhood has been carrying. I know the names, not the organizations, the people. And I need you to hear me say something before this music starts. I did not come here tonight to perform for you. I came here tonight to be with you. All of you. Every single person in this building. And I need you, everybody in this building, to be here with each other tonight. Not out there. In here. With me. Can you do that?" 12,000 people answered, not with applause, with something older than applause, the sound of a large group of people saying yes in the specific way that yes is said when it costs something. Barry White nodded. He turned to his orchestra, and he began. The two men had not planned to be near each other. Their organizations had not planned this. The seating chart of the Inglewood Forum had arranged them with the indifferent geometry of a sold-out general admission floor. Marcus Webb, 26 years old, one of the senior figures of one of the organizations, standing with 4 of his people on the left side of the floor, 20 rows back. And Darnell Price, 28 years old, the equivalent figure in the other organization, standing on the right side, roughly the same distance back, with 3 of his own people. They had been aware of each other since before the show started. That awareness, the specific alertness of 2 people in a room who each know the other is there, had been the reason the security chief had gone to Barry White's dressing room. It had not resolved during the opening act. It had simply waited. Barry White's first song was "Can't Get Enough of Your Love, Babe." By the third song, something was happening on the floor that had nothing to do with the security assessment. 12,000 people were moving. Not violently, the way crowds move when the music is doing what it is supposed to do. Organically, together. The individual motion becoming collective motion, becoming something that no individual in the room had decided to do, and all of them were doing. Marcus Webb was moving. He was not aware, initially, that he was moving. He became aware of it the way Barry White had described awareness, after the fact, in the moment of noticing. His people were moving too. And somewhere across the floor, Darnell Price was moving. And Darnell's people. And the 12,000 people between them and around them and behind them. All of it becoming one motion, one room, one thing happening to 12,000 people at the same time. The awareness did not go away, but it changed. Barry White played for 2 hours and 40 minutes. He did not stop. He did not address the audience again after that first 2 minutes. He did not need to. What he had said before the music started had created a frame, and the music had filled the frame for 2 hours and 40 minutes with exactly what he had promised, his presence, complete and undivided, given equally to every person in the building. Not a performance, a covenant. The show ended at 10:47. 12,000 people began moving toward the exits. Calvin was at the stage door, monitoring the crowd flow, watching for the thing the security chief had predicted. He watched Marcus Webb move through the crowd toward the main exit. He watched Darnell Price moving through the crowd from the other side of the floor toward the same exit. The trajectories were going to intersect. Calvin reached for his radio. He did not use it. What happened at the main exit of the Inglewood Forum at 10:51 on September 7, 1974, was not witnessed by anyone in an official capacity. Calvin saw it. 2 of Marcus's people saw it. 1 of Darnell's people saw it. And approximately 40 members of the crowd who happened to be near the exit at the moment it occurred. Marcus Webb and Darnell Price reached the exit at the same moment. They looked at each other. The look lasted a long time. Then Marcus Webb said something. Calvin, 30 feet away, could not hear what it was. Darnell Price responded, also inaudible. Marcus Webb extended his hand. Darnell Price looked at the hand for a moment. Then he took it. They shook hands. Once. Firm and brief, and carrying the specific weight of 2 men who understand exactly what they are doing and have decided to do it anyway. Then they walked out of the building in separate directions. Calvin went to Barry White's dressing room and told him what he had seen. Barry White was sitting in the chair, still in the cream suit, the performance finished, the room quiet. He listened without interrupting. When Calvin finished, Barry White was quiet for a long time. "Did it hold?" he asked. "As far as I know," Calvin said. Barry White nodded. He looked at his hands. "Music doesn't fix things," he said. "I know that. I'm not saying tonight fixed anything. But sometimes a room can hold people together long enough for them to remember that they're people. That's all a room can do. That's all I can do. Hold the room long enough for people to remember." The ceasefire held for 7 months. It broke in April 1975 for reasons that had nothing to do with the concert and everything to do with the conditions that had created the conflict in the first place. Barry White knew this. He did not claim otherwise. He had never claimed that music was a solution, only that it was a room, and that the room, on September 7, 1974, had held. Marcus Webb left Los Angeles in 1976. He moved to Atlanta, started a construction business, and did not speak publicly about that night for 20 years. In 1994, in an interview with a small community newspaper that almost no one read, he said, "I shook that man's hand because Barry White had just spent 2 hours and 40 minutes reminding me that we were in the same room. I don't know if I would have done it otherwise. I like to think I would have. But I know the music helped." Barry White performed in Los Angeles many times after that night. He never spoke about September 7th publicly. He did not consider it his story to tell. But those who traveled with him said that when the tour played Inglewood, when the bus pulled up to the Forum and Barry White looked out the window at the neighborhood 6 blocks from where he grew up, he would get very quiet. Not sad, quiet. The quiet of a man thinking about a room, about what a room can hold when the music is doing what it is supposed to do. and about two men at an exit door on a September night who remembered, for long enough, that they were people